Hello, America. Welcome to Common Sense. I'm Wendy Bell. You know, I hated when those conspiracy theories that are fact-checked and debunked by experts turn out to be conspiracy facts. You know, so weird how often that happens. The CIA testing LSD in top-secret experiments on behavior modification. MK Ultra, true. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment on black men for 40 years, true. Operation Snow White and the Church of Scientology, of course, true. You've heard of all of these, right? I want to talk about a recent conspiracy theory. This idea that certain kinds of people are being kicked to the curb in favor of a different kind of people, that they're being replaced, if you will. That's totally not happening, so says the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. They call it one of the most dangerous white supremacist conspiracy theories out there. In fact, I'm reading their literature. The Great Replacement Conspiracy Theory is a white supremacist, xenophobic, and anti-immigrant concept that posits white people are being replaced by immigrants, Muslims, and other people of color in their so-called home countries. Now, I'm not saying white people are being replaced in this country. Everyone is, thanks to the turnstile of illegal immigration and the SUC, Global Compact for Migration. And we can thank BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street for an awful lot of it. Seems to be a lot of money in equity, after all. Time to bring in the panel and do some digging, shall we? Bill Spadia is New Jersey's top morning drive host on 101.5 FM. Also the founder of the Common Sense Club. Looking sharp there, Bill. Wendy Patrick hosts Today with Dr. Wendy on KCBQ Radio, The Answer in San Diego, Pretty in Pink. And Chris Arps co-hosts the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on News Talk St. Louis. I love this. 101.9 and 94.1 FM in Missouri, my home away from home. All right, I want to start with you, Wendy. You know, I stumbled onto this website. I know you guys have seen this, called tent.org. So its mission is to mobilize major businesses to connect refugees to work. A new approach to supporting refugees, they say. An awful lot of companies we all know have pledged to Tent to hire and mentor and train people who've come into this country illegally. They're not pledging to hire veterans. They're not pledging to hire black workers or women or people with disabilities. They're pledging to hire illegal aliens who've broken the law to come here. Wendy, give me your first blush thoughts on this.
The very first thing I looked at, Wendy, is whether or not they're going to be very open and honest and transparent about the documentation they would require to hire these people. Now, it's not going to be the case, I would imagine, that people just come across the border and get a job at this company or any other. You've got to have documentation, even if you're not here legally. But the first thing I thought of is exactly what you said. There are so many American citizens that would love to have these jobs, that have always lived here, or people that have come here legally and have been standing in line. They would love these jobs too. I also thought it was interesting, and I'm sure my co-panelists will talk about this as well, is right front and center, right up top, it talked about being forced to flee their home country. Remember, that is one of the factors that everybody down at the border that's processing people are struggling to try to figure out without documentation, whether or not that's true, sometimes up to 2 years for even that type of an asylum hearing. So it's fraught with issues, and I wonder how long it actually takes to place one of these refugees.
Right, that's a great point. And Chris, more than 400 companies have signed on with Tent already to help illegals get these jobs, right? You know these names: Estee Lauder, eBay, Hilton, Starbucks, Visa, Unilever, Sanofi, Pfizer, McDonald's, Marriott, Microsoft, Kraft Heinz. I mean, those are just a few. This sounds to me, Chris, like the new Black Lives Matter grift, except Tent is replacing blacks with migrants. Weigh in on this for me. What do you see?
We've seen that. We've seen a lot of African Americans at city council meetings, at school board meetings, are very angry at the perception that it seems that illegal aliens are getting special treatment within the system. We talk about this Tent program. We talk about what's happening in New York City, where they're handing illegal immigrants debit cards with thousands of dollars on top of it. We see that they're offering that the Biden administration is flying people in. We saw the reports a couple of weeks ago, 320,000 people that are being flown into this country from all over the world. They're giving green cards so they can work into this country. What other bigger magnet can you have to come to this country illegally with the government telling you they'll give you a debit card and you'll get a green card and be able to work?
Yeah, this pledging, though, it makes me so uncomfortable, Bill, because, we searched about 70 of the U.S. companies that have signed on to this tent. And when I Googled their top investors, you know what I found. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street were the top shareholders in like 80% of them. Can you help me connect the dots?
Yeah.
It's a grift.
Well, the biggest issue here is that these companies, let's just take it at face value and say that there are some people out there that want to do good and say, wow, there are migrants yearning to be free, let's help them. The reality is that our open border policies and the sanctuary policies and now this tent idea is only serving as a magnet to enrich and empower the cartels. We just got back from the southern border, spent a couple days talking with law enforcement, taking a ride on a boat on the Rio Grande River. And I can tell you firsthand that the border is militarized, just not on our side, on their side. So most of these immigrants that are coming over as essentially slaves to the cartels. So when you're giving them a job here, what you're really doing is empowering the slave traders, the human traffickers, these horrible, horrible people that run at least now 3 cartels operating on the northern Mexican border, 3 Mexican cartels. One cartel reportedly from China, now developing the fentanyl there to come across our border. In one 6-week period in Hidalgo County last year, 6 weeks, they tracked the illegal traffic coming over. 2,000 migrants every single day, and they estimated 70% were Chinese men, military age. Now, come on, these are not your tired, huddled masses yearning to be free. These are terrorists and criminals. The border's open. These companies are opening up that door for the cartel profiteering.
Well, now wait a minute. The Great Replacement is a white supremacist conspiracy theory, you guys. I know you've been watching Tyson Foods getting boycotted for firing American workers and reportedly replacing them with illegals. That feels like a conspiracy fact, Wendy, if we're actually keeping score here, and you know I am.
Oh, you always are, and we're all glad for it. We're better for it because we actually get the true facts and statistics. And speaking of statistics, one of the things that always interests me is, are these people getting hired for less? In other words, is there exploitation going on, not just in bringing them here through the cartels and human trafficking operations, but once they arrive? And I would love to see those side-by-side numbers, because you always think, that's not the American dream to come over illegally, either be in the shadows or be hired for much less than you're worth and not have the opportunities that you would otherwise have if you came legally. So I also want to see how exactly they are being placed. And, some of the best testimony, if you will, comes from some of these refugees themselves. I've heard in news interviews just within the last couple of days as people speaking out saying, I got this card, I got this phone, I got this, that, and the other. I'm supporting a family abroad. And you also have to believe that if you're fleeing danger in your home country, it's unlikely that so many of these military-aged men fall into that category. I don't know. They haven't had their hearings yet, but that is raising some suspicion among those of us that are watching them replace American jobs.
I agree. And Chris, Tyson says reports of it's replacing Americans with migrants is overstated, right? But their own website, it says Tyson Foods does have a partnership with Tent for refugees, and in 2022 committed to hiring 2,500. If you fire one person for another kind of person, to me that's called replacing them. Right?
That's exactly what it is. The companies will always tell us that these are the jobs that Americans don't want to do. So that is the reason why they have to import people from third world countries to come into the country and work at cheaper wages. We've seen this for decades, for generations, and this is really just corporations that want cheap labor. And unfortunately, there are cartels and others that are willing to allow them to do that and exploit these people. Also, they could expand their profits.
Right. Well, you guys hang tight because we're going to keep going on this.